IRS data revealed there will be some significant numbers that I lay out as it relates to the tax filing season that's showing a drop in filing, processing, as well as tax refunds. That way you can have an idea of what's going on, take what applies to you, what makes sense, and then adjust and go from there. If you have not filed your taxes yet, consider clicking the link in the description where you can get access to experts without being overcharged in fees, but they can position you to maximize your refund legally and then lower your tax liability. Ultimately is what you want. To be able to legally lower your tax liability positions you to put more money in your pocket. Simply put, this article came from Forbes. It was loaded front to back, so I wanted to give you this pretty much verbatim just so you can have an idea, but then with some additional insight. So the IRS data from the third week of the tax filing season, the week ending February 14, 2025, continues to suggest that taxpayers are not excited about filing this tax season. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Were you excited? Are you holding off? Let me know. Filing statistics are down in every category from filing to processing to tax refunds, and I'll show you the numbers of what was discovered. So the IRS data from the third week of the tax filing season, we just talked about it. Early filing data reflects continued downturn in tax returns received compared to the prior year. The dip is 4.9% compared to last year and 10% down the same filing period in 2023. So it's gradually going down. What do I mean? So the IRS still appears unmoved, claiming on its website that historically filing season numbers even out as more tax returns come in, and noting that the IRS expects the tax return filing numbers will level out in future weeks as the April filing deadline approaches, which typically happens. There's a rush towards the end of March, approaching April 15th, and then sometimes it's a delay just based on the influx alone. So they said they remain unconvinced that the slowdown is just a seasonal tick because the IRS is currently without a permanent commissioner and the acting commissioner has not posted a message to taxpayers. A Trump administration hiring freeze at the tax agency has begun, with existing job offers being rescinded, and after Trump suggested he might fire some current IRS workers or move those authorized to carry guns to the border for immigration enforcement. So the Department of Homeland Security sent a letter to Treasury Secretary, basically to deputize IRS agents to help with efforts to crack down on immigration. So they're moving people around based on certain things. And you tell me what you think about the IRS having, people who are gun totals, and basically, does that benefit the IRS? Should they be maneuvered? But let's get into the details. So this week, over 6,000 IRS employees were fired, causing some taxpayers to query if the IRS was even open for business. Well, it is. In response to the news, one user posted on social media, and this is why I haven't filed my taxes yet. Some people are just kind of holding off because of all of the changes. They don't, know what to expect. The uncertainty raises fear in many areas. So in addition, taxpayers have voiced concerns about the privacy of their financial data. After reports suggested that Elon Musk, Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, had been given access to sensitive financial data in the Treasury Department. Last week, Justice Department lawyers agreed to a proposed order that would temporarily curb that access, a move that follows a lawsuit and protest challenging DOGE's action. So some people are like, hold on, I don't want to file. DOGE mess around and get access to my personal information, etc. Your perspective may be different depending on how you feel, but some people feel like, okay, if they got access, they already have access, is no big deal. Some people are like, nah, this is a big deal, which I feel both angles for different reasons. However, you got to understand that you don't want to leave money on the table if it's an opportunity to get it, and do it in a way that allows you to do it legally, minimizing your tax liability, maximizing your tax refund. But what they're discovering is there have been a lot of misappropriated funds that have come from the taxpayers. So some of what they're doing seems to be very significant, very impactful, and could position America as a whole to be more cash flow positive, which could lead to economic growth. But it could be rough along the way because it's different. And change also brings uncertainty. And when change happens, people sometimes get stuck in not knowing exactly what to do. And as a result, they do absolutely nothing. So this week, Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency raised eyebrows when it requested access to sensitive taxpayer data at the IRS. According to various reports, DOGE is seeking access to the data retrieval system, basically, and you can think of the IDRS as a master file, which includes tax returns and other taxpayer information, including bank records. So it has a little bit of everything. So definitely you don't want the power of that being in the hands of one individual. So it's a loaded situation that's going on. So the changes are making taxpayers nervous, and that might explain why filing numbers in 2025 remain sluggish. The IRS received 33 million plus individual income tax returns in 2025 compared to 34 million plus in 2024. That's a drop of about 4.9%. So here are the numbers. You can see in 2024, the total returns received was 34,700,000 plus. Total returns processed was 34,500,000 plus. In 2025, the total returns received was 33 million, almost even, and then the ones processed 32,800,000 plus. So there is a drop in the amount of returns received as well as the returns processed. And then you'll see it's also a drop in some other areas as well. So about 59% of those returns were self-prepared, which is not unusual. Most of those returns were e-filed. In 2025, the IRS has received 32 plus million e-filed returns compared to 34 million. So that displays the drop. The data shows that the IRS has processed 32 million plus, as we already went over those numbers. But web visits to the IRS.gov were also sharply down. Why? Dropping an incredible 46.3% compared to 2024 as it relates to the web visits. There have been 124 million plus visits to the website as of February 14, 2025, compared to 231 plus million visits in February 16th. So sometimes people are getting their data in from different directions, but many people were visiting the IRS websites for different things because that's the source of the information. So for it to be down that much, 46%, almost half, does raise the eyebrow. So the downturn in web visits may reflect the fact that the website hasn't been regularly updated. So there have been minimal updates, and sometimes there are minimal updates, then there's nothing new to discuss, so there's no need for people to visit. That's just how the mind works. There have been only 6 press releases posted since the season opened, and only 1 update since last week. So they expect the trend to continue for a few reasons, including that media and communication personnel were included in the most recent rounds of firing. So some of the people who were fired were some of the ones who were responsible for possibly putting out media. And this has indicated that communications will not be shared until they have been cleared at the top, aka by the Treasury. The latter is a marked change from previous practices. So average refunds are also down. I told you it's another thing that was also down. The average refunds are down. And this is a change from the past 2 weeks. The IRS has issued 13 million plus tax refunds so far, compared to 20 million plus, almost 21 million in 2024 at this time frame, which is a drop of 34 plus percent. The average tax refund is also down. So 2,100 per taxpayer as of February the 14th, compared to 3,200 February 16th of 2024. That's a 32.4% decrease. The average refund issued by direct deposit is also lower in 2025. So that's 2,200 as compared to 3,200 in 2024. And here's the charts that represent those numbers. The IRS issued a bit of a disclaimer on refund data, stating that, please note that the refund numbers for the week ending February 16th, 2024, include the PATH Act refunds, EITC, those who had the earned income tax credit or the child tax credit, while the refund numbers for the week ending in 2025, February 14th, do not. So that's a big difference. So what that means is refunds have been issued that were being held back from the PATH Act in 2024. So that's a big influx of people who would have qualified for the earned income tax credit that's equated into those numbers, or who would have qualified for the child tax credit that's equated into those numbers. Once those numbers come in, that number should drastically increase for the amount of issued out refunds, because once that PATH Act is lifted and now people are able to get those refunds because they've confirmed that they legitimately qualify for those credits, then you should see a big jump in refunds being distributed because of the PATH Act being lifted. So just, hopefully that makes sense. The PATH Act was already lifted in those previous returns, which resulted in, multiple refunds being accepted in comparison to this year. So that's a big difference. So what they're referring to is that the law requires IRS to hold refunds tied to the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit until mid-February. The rule applies to the entire refund, even the portion not associated with the earned income tax credit or the additional child tax credit. That means if you qualify for a refundable credit, you'll have to wait until the IRS can release it. Those checks should begin to go out next week. As a result, if you are an early earned income tax credit or child tax credit filer, you should begin to see your tax refunds by March 3rd. So these numbers should multiply by March 3rd. So be on the lookout. Let us know in the comments if you received yours by this date. Some taxpayers could see their refunds a few days earlier. That estimate is based on processing times, allowing for President's Day, which is a federal and bank holiday. Notably, in 2020, the last filing season with the week ending on February 14th, tax refund numbers also took a dip. But overall, filing numbers were nearly flush from the previous week, dipping just 0.3%. So it continues to be an unpredictable season. Be sure to check back and stay tuned to these types of videos so you can get plugged in on the information. If you have not already filed your taxes, consider clicking that link below to get access to tax experts at a fraction of the cost, but also positioning yourself to maximize your refund. Mr. Smith, signing out. Salute.